Next up in my series of one from every team videos, today we're going to be going over the most underpaid player from every NHL team this season. And there's a couple things I want to clarify before we get started. This is the most underpaid player from every team, not necessarily the best contract from every team. I'm not taking into account the term left on the deal at all. It's just about the cap hit. And also, there's a couple examples in this video of a player that is underpaid this season, but they already have an extension in place that doesn't kick in until next season. So keep that in mind if you see any players in this video that recently signed big extensions. This is only about this season, and I'm sure I'll revisit this and make an updated version next year. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and kick things off with the Anaheim Ducks, and this is an easy one. It has to be Troy Terry, who has a cap hit of just $1.45 million this season. In my opinion, Troy Terry is the Ducks' best forward. You can make the case for Trevor Zegras, but if Troy Terry isn't the best forward on the team, he's the second best, and having a guy like that for just $1.45 million is pretty insane value. Troy Terry is set to become an RFA at season's end. He's definitely going to be in for a big raise, but this season he's definitely their most underpaid player. The Arizona Coyotes has to be defenseman Jakob Chychrun, a cap hit of just $4.6 million. Missed the majority of this season so far, just recently came back from his injury and has looked good in the 4 games he's appeared in. I'm really interested to see what happens with Jakob Chychrun. This is a guy that I fully expect to be traded at some point between now and the trade deadline, and likely for a pretty sizable package. Not only is Chychrun a fantastic top pairing defenseman, the fact that he has such a team-friendly cap hit makes him that much more valuable. The Boston Bruins are up next, a team with a ton of amazing value contracts. Have to give honorable mentions to Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak, but this season, I mean, it's got to be Patrice Bergeron, a cap hit of just $2.5 million. Now, there was signing bonuses and some incentives where Patrice Bergeron could make more money, but just based off of pure cap hit, this is one of the better value deals in the entire NHL this season. And even though Bergeron put up 65 points last year and literally won the Selke Trophy, I think you can make the argument that he's playing even better this season, which is crazy. 37 years old, still one of the absolute best centermen in the game. The Buffalo Sabres, the first player in this video that does have an extension that doesn't kick in until next season, but their most underpaid player this year has to be Tage Thompson, who has a cap hit of just $1.4 million, and then of course he'll start making about $7.1 next year, which I think is well deserved. There was so much criticism about that contract extension the Sabres signed him to in the offseason, and now it's kind of looking like a bargain with the way he's performed this season, and I really don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Tage Thompson is truly one of the most unique offensive weapons the league has ever seen. The dude is 6'8" on skates and just does things you should not be able to do at that size. His combination of size, speed, and skill makes him almost unstoppable in certain areas of the game. In my opinion, one of the most fun players to watch in the league, and this season, easily the Sabres' most underpaid player. The Calgary Flames definitely have to go with Elias Lindholm on this one, a cap hit of just $4.85 million. This has been one of the better value deals in the league for a while now. Lindholm, one of the top two-way centermen in the game. He's leading the Calgary Flames in points this season with 16 and 21. He's fantastic. The most underpaid player on the Hurricanes has to be Marty Necas, who signed a bridge deal with the Canes in the offseason, 2 years, $6 million, a $3 million AAV, which looks fantastic already. The dude has 24 points in 22 games. He has taken a massive step this year. He's leading the Canes in scoring. The Chicago Blackhawks are up next. Not a whole lot of options to choose from here, but I decided to go with Philip Kurashev, who has a cap hit of just $750K this season, and he's above a half point per game pace through 21 games. I would say that's really good value. The Colorado Avalanche easily has to be Nathan MacKinnon, who has a cap hit of just $6.3 million this season. Now, as we all know, MacKinnon has that massive extension that kicks in next season, making him the highest paid player in the league, so this is definitely the last year in which we'll be able to call MacKinnon underpaid. The Columbus Blue Jackets, I definitely have to go with their captain, Boone Jenner, who has a cap hit of just $3.75 million, which I think is incredible value for a guy who is, for one, the captain of your team, and somebody who has 32 goals in his previous 80 games played dating back to last season. He's playing some of the best hockey of his career right now. Moving on now to the Dallas Stars, I'm going to give an honorable mention to Jason Robertson. Even though he makes $7.7 million, he's already proven that that is a steal, but I feel like I definitely have to go with Rupe Hintz on this one. $3.15 million for a guy who had 70 plus points last season. He's scoring at above a 90 point pace this season. That is unbelievable value. Him and Jason Robertson, easily one of the best duos in the league. The Red Wings are up next, and it easily has to be Dominic Kubalik. In my opinion, one of the better value signings of the 2022 offseason, a cap hit of just $2.5 million, and he's turned into a legit top line contributor for the Red Wings. He's over a point per game with 22 in 21 games. He's found some really nice chemistry with Dylan Larkin, and as Red Wings fans, I feel like we've all kind of been waiting for Dominic Kubalik to slow down. I thought it was going to happen by now, but it just hasn't happened yet. Next up, we have the Florida Panthers. I'm going with defenseman Brandon Montour on this one, a cap hit of just $3.5 million. He has 20 points so far this season through 20 games, averaging nearly 25 minutes of ice time per game, carried an incredibly heavy workload while Aaron Ekblad was out with injury, and even though that workload has came down a tiny bit since Ekblad returned, he is still being relied on a ton by the Florida Panthers, and he's done an amazing job this season. The Los Angeles Kings are up next. I'm going with Trevor Moore on this one, a cap hit of just $1.875 million, a guy who has turned into a really reliable top 9 forward for the Kings, had career highs in goals, points, assists last season, and he's on pace to break those career highs this year. And aside from the offensive production, he's a very tenacious player, great on the forecheck, overall just a very valuable piece for the Los Angeles Kings, and having a guy like that for a cap hit under $2 million is pretty fantastic. The Minnesota Wild are up next, and even though he's missed a lot of time this season, I still think it has to be Ryan Hartman, who has a cap hit of just $1.7 million. When healthy, this is a guy who usually serves as the Minnesota Wild's #1 center between Kaprizov and Zuccarello, had 34 goals and 65 points in that role last season. For a team like the Minnesota Wild, who have so much dead cap space after buying out Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, you need guys on value deals to step up and become important members of the team, and over the past couple of seasons, Ryan Hartman has done exactly that. The Montreal Canadiens definitely going to go with Kirby Dach on this one of their off-season additions, a cap hit of $3.362 million, has looked fantastic in his first quarter season as a member of the Montreal Canadiens. He's got 17 points in 21 games, and I've said this multiple times before, I'll say it again, Marty St. Louis looks like a genius for moving Dach to the wing and playing him on that top line with Suzuki and Caulfield. Those three have some great chemistry together. The Nashville Predators, I struggled with this one a little bit. In the end, decided to go with Nino Niederreiter, who has a cap hit of just $4 million, scoring at above a 30-goal pace this season, had 20-plus goals in each of the past 2 seasons with the Carolina Hurricanes. For a guy who can put the puck in the net like that, I feel like a $4 million cap hit is pretty team-friendly. The New Jersey Devils, this is an easy one, has to be Jesper Bratt, who has a cap hit of $5.45 million. He bet on himself in the offseason, signed a 1-year deal, and that's looking like a great choice. He's got 26 points so far this season in 23 games. He is going to get a massive payday in the offseason, and it's going to be well-deserved. The New York Islanders, another easy one here. It has to be goaltender Ilya Sorokin, who has a cap hit of just $4 million. He's 10-5 this season with a .933 save percentage. He's the league leader currently in goals saved above expected. One of the absolute very best goaltenders in the league, a guy who I think is capable of winning multiple Vezinas throughout his career, may even win one this season. He really is that good, and he's the 26th highest paid goaltender in the league, so absolute steal of a deal there for the Islanders. The New York Rangers are up next, and I'm going to go with another goaltender here. I'm going to say Igor Shesterkin is their most underpaid player, a cap hit of about $5.6 million per season, and although his numbers are down quite a bit this season from his Vezina Trophy winning season last year, he's still one of the absolute best goaltenders on the planet, and there's 10 goalies in the league that make more money than Shesterkin, so I would say that's pretty good value there for the Rangers. Moving on now to the Ottawa Senators, I'm definitely going with Drake Batherson on this one. Has a cap hit of $5.975 million, 60 points in his last 67 games dating back to last season. Having a guy who's going to be a key contributor and a mainstay in this team's top 6 for many years, locked up to a cap hit under $5 million, that's a pretty sweet deal for the Sens. The Philadelphia Flyers, I struggled with this one a little bit. In the end, decided to go with Carter Hart, who makes a hair under $4 million this season, and although his numbers have definitely came back down to earth from his ridiculously hot start to the season, his numbers as a whole this year still look good, and he has a pretty crazy workload playing behind a very bad Philadelphia team. As I'm going along here, I just realized I skipped the Edmonton Oilers, so I'm going to throw them in here before I forget. My pick for the Edmonton Oilers is Leon Draisaitl, who has a cap hit of $8.5 million, which is definitely the highest of any player I picked for this video, but realistically, Draisaitl is a guy who should be one of the absolute highest paid players in the league, you know, up there around $11.5 million. $8.5 million a season, though, for a guy who is a perennial top 5 scorer in the league at worst. Fantastic value, so Draisaitl's my pick for the Oilers. The Pittsburgh Penguins are up next, and I actually just made a mistake saying Draisaitl was the highest cap hit of any player I picked. I'm actually going with Crosby here for the Penguins, so his $8.7 million cap hit is the highest of any player in this video, and although that deal wasn't looked at as a team-friendly deal when Crosby originally signed it, it looks fantastic in 2022, especially given the way Sidney Crosby is playing this season. Even at his age, he's still one of the best players in the league. I believe he's like 2nd or maybe 3rd in even strength points this season. He's a beast. The San Jose Sharks are up next, and I'm going to go with Alexander Barabanov on this one. After being picked up from the Toronto Maple Leafs for basically nothing, he has quietly developed developed into a pretty solid top 9 contributor for the San Jose Sharks, had 39 points last season and has 14 this season already in just 20 games, which is on pace for a career high for him by far. The Seattle Kraken are up next, and I'm going to go with Vince Dunn on this one, a cap hit of $4 million a season. Real solid top 4 puck-moving defenseman, a guy who's capable of chipping in offensively. He's already up to 13 points this season in 21 games, and he's not going to cause you too many problems in his own end either. So I think $4 million for a player like that is pretty solid value. The St. Louis Blues really comes down to 2 players for them this season, and those guys are Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. I decided to go with Robert Thomas, was a cap hit of just $2.8 million this year. Obviously, both of those players have big extensions that kick in next season, but again, this is all based off of this season. And Robert Thomas has really developed into one of the best forwards on this team now that the older guys on the team like Ryan O'Reilly, Braden Shen, and those guys aren't necessarily the players that they once were. It's nice that they have guys, younger guys like Kyrou and like Robert Thomas to take some of the pressure off those guys now that they've really broken out into young stars. The Tampa Bay Lightning, gotta go with Brandon Hagel on this one, a cap hit of just $1.5 million, an unreal addition at last year's trade deadline. And this season, Hagel has kind of went from a really good role player to a legit top line contributor. He's averaging almost 19 minutes a game in terms of ice time, 17 points in 21 games. That's a career high in points per game for him by far. Incredibly important and versatile player for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and well worth the assets that they gave up for him last year. The Toronto Maple Leafs, it's between 2 players for me. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Ilya Samsonov, who is one of the bigger steals of the offseason, but I got to go with Michael Bunting on this one. The dude makes under $1 million, a cap hit of $950K, a guy who's fit like a glove on that top line with Matthews and Marner since signing with the Leafs last offseason, and having a top line player like that who can complement superstar players like Marner and Matthews for under $1 million, that's just ridiculous value. The Vancouver Canucks, definitely going to go with their captain Bo Horvat on this one, a cap hit of $5.5 million, currently tied for second in the league in goals with 17 in 22 games. A player whose future is kind of up in the air. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Bo Horvat, but given the fact that he's set to become a UFA at the end of the season, he's picking the right time to have a career year. The Vegas Golden Knights are up next. I got to give a big honorable mention to Chandler Stevenson, but I got to go with Logan Thompson on this one, a cap hit of $766K. It goes without saying, entry-level deals are not included in this video, but that's actually not even an entry-level deal for Logan Thompson. Logan Thompson has been one of the absolute best starting goaltenders in the league this season, and having that for under $800K, especially when there were so many questions about Vegas' goaltending heading into the season, is pretty insane. And I know this video is only focusing on the cap hits for this season, but Logan Thompson is locked up at that number through next season and the year after as well. Just an unreal deal for the Golden Knights. The Washington Capitals are up next. Gotta go with Dylan Strome on this one, a cap hit of $3.5 million. Really nice find for the Capitals in the offseason, especially with Nicholas Backstrom being out. Dylan Strome has really stepped up and provided solid production as kind of the placeholder #1 center playing with Ovechkin. And now for the final team of the video, the Winnipeg Jets, I'm going with goaltender Connor Hellebuyck for this one. I know $6.16 million is still quite a bit for a goaltender, but when you compare this number to, what Vasilevsky makes and what Bobrovsky makes and what the highest paid goaltenders in the league make, it's a steal for the Jets. Hellebuyck has been lights out this season, such a massive reason why the Winnipeg Jets have been one of the better teams in the Western Conference. If the season ended today, I really believe Hellebuyck would have a legit chance at the Vezina, might even win it. So that is going to wrap up today's video, going over the most underpaid player from every NHL team this season. It goes without saying, but I will be doing the most overpaid player from every team this season in the coming days, so be sure to look out for that, and drop a like on this video if you're excited for that one. If you disagree with any of my picks, be sure to let me know who your choices would be down below in the comments. And last but not least, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all season long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.